How often in life do we wonder what would happen if we would unlock our mind? If we could just change our state of mind, become more focused, relaxed, aware of ourselves. So today, we are here with Ragnhild. She's a specialist in taking people into a journey of self-discovery. And I'm very excited for her to share with us about her journey and how every person can become their better version of themselves. So Ragnhild, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much, Yuval.
So maybe you can share with us a little bit about yourself. What are you currently doing, about your company, which is very interesting. And then we're going to dive into a discussion about how we can use yoga, meditation, and maybe other techniques to become a better version of ourselves.
My name is Ragnhild, and that's an Old Norse name that means battle advisor. It's a Viking name. And that's probably also partly where I got the interest from a very young age in the Vikings, not in the violent and aggressive part, but in the spirit of exploration and adventure. My company is called The New Viking because it is taking people on retreats mainly to Norway, where I'm from, but also it's taking people on a journey of self-discovery, and that's where the meditation comes in, because it's kind of an unlikely combination of Vikings and meditation. But that's what it means to me. And the way this all came about is that originally I'd planned to do a TV show called The New Viking, and I was peddling in my TV show, going around to big conferences, and I ran out of money. And then many years later, I came back to the New Viking idea because I started doing a lot of meditation to deal with anxiety and going through really difficult personal chapters in my life. And that's really the one modality that helped me the most. And then it happened that a well-known life coach in Florida asked me to do a retreat with her and to teach meditation in Iceland, because I was to be like the Viking counterpart or the guide over there. And then the pandemic happened and we had to cancel. But a couple of years later, it all started again. So in 2023, we went on the first retreat to Norway, and it was a big success. And so ever since then, I've been taking people on journeys, not only let's say physical journeys going to Norway, and we've even done one in the US, but also on the inner journey, which is the meditation part. And I also teach yoga nidra, which is a deeper form, I guess you could say deeper form of meditation, where you can do it lying down, and I take you on like a guided or deep meditation, so you can completely relax.
Our listeners may be familiar or maybe not familiar with meditation. So maybe share with us a little bit, what is meditation?
Yeah.
And how it can benefit people. Because me, myself, I'm familiar with it. I know the power of it, but I want people to know from also your perspective and your approach to that. So maybe share with us a little bit about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think meditation, it's become a very overused word also, or a concept. And sometimes it's mixed up with mindfulness or other practices. And meditation really comes from the Latin word meditare, and meditare means to know yourself. And so it really is a journey of self-discovery. And how can you do that? It's by getting really, really quiet. And so it's a discipline or a practice. It's like, you can't do it a few times and then be like, oh yeah, I meditated, I'm good, I'm done. It's like brushing your teeth. It's something that you do regularly, and then things start to bubble to the surface. And I think one of the very interesting things is that it does require a lot of courage to go on that journey, because you might discover things about yourself that you're not so proud of or you don't like. And that's why we're scared to sit in silence, and why we constantly fill our heads with noise and YouTube, and I'm guilty of that too, and podcasts. Not this one, of course, it's different. There's always something going on now. I think very rarely do we take the time to just pause and sit quietly. And that's why meditation is so important. It's like cleansing yourself on the inside.
So if we look at meditation, then what would be the process? Because there are so many different types of meditation. Some are guided, some are just not guided for yourself to do. to do with yourself with. So what would be maybe the differences? You can share with us a little bit about the different meditations, how people can start engage in meditation if they never tried it before?
Absolutely. So the way I started meditating, because I, like many people, said, "Oh, I can't meditate because I just think too much." Well, that means that you need it. And it's like saying, "I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible enough." It's a practice. So anybody can do it. It just takes a little bit of discipline, and it becomes easier and easier. So what I always recommend is just to put a timer, even for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, let's say in the morning, first thing when you wake up, because that's when our brain waves are in the most relaxed state, and it's the easiest to do it. So before you check your phone, before you drink a cup of coffee, before you talk to anybody, just put that timer, sit in a comfortable position, but try to stay upright, because or else we tend to fall back asleep. And then every time you notice your thoughts wandering, bring it back to either an external noise. Let's say you have your air conditioner or something that's very monotonous, or you can use a mantra. And like every time you notice your thoughts starting to wander, you could use a mantra, and either a classical mantra or anything like I am quiet, I am quiet. Whatever you want to use. It's just to rein your mind back in. And another way to meditate is just to start noticing sensations in your body, so you get out of the thinking mind. And then if you want to learn more about meditation, there's so many, you could go into more classical meditation and really learn chants and mantras, or just the silent ones, or you can listen to guided meditations, either on an app or on YouTube or soundtracks, or go to a class, obviously.
As you speak about it, we can learn about it as a process of becoming aware and navigating your awareness at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is interesting, how you can also both at the same time be aware of your thoughts, of yourself, and also navigate your thoughts into a certain direction. So it kind of taking back the control over ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and letting go of whatever bother us.
Yeah, and maybe it's not so much about directly controlling them, but navigating, like you say, could be, let's say the water is very wavy, and that's all our thoughts, right, that are moving by. And then we can just watch them go by and let go of them until the water becomes more and more still in our minds. And when you get to a state like that, it'll just happen suddenly. Like every time you just watch the waves go by or the clouds pass by, metaphorically speaking, you have more of a chance to access this silent pool of consciousness. And when you have an intention, for example, that you may say to yourself before you start meditating, you're able to drop that little seed of intention into a still pool where it can really take on a new life. Whereas if your mind is very busy, it's very hard to put new things into motion.
What are the benefits of practicing meditation in our everyday life? If someone says, I want to practice meditation and I don't know yet for what reason, so what could be good reasons for them to begin and meditate that it would help them with?
So there's such an endless list of benefits. It's about staying, it's like sticking with the practice, and that's when you start to notice the benefits. But you'll notice that you are calmer, that's the beginning of every good thing, right? That you're calm. So you will be less reactive. It can help improve your relationships in that sense. You'll make better decisions because you're more clear and focused, so more productive. And one really big one is better sleep in many cases, just because you won't feel as anxious. I mean, I started with it because I had a lot of, one part was very curious about it because everybody's talking about it and all these thought leaders that really practice it. And obviously I was doing a lot of yoga at the time, but I did it to help with anxiety, and it really, really helps you. And one thing I forgot to mention was just coming back to the breath. That's maybe the easiest way to practice is just noticing the breath. And every time your mind wanders, go back to the breath. It was the
So
easiest one, and I forgot to mention.
the way I see it, so it's very interesting because the way I work with people, it's it's both internal communication and external communication, is understanding who we are internally and what is our being here in this world, because we all have certain skills, certain ideas, certain those internal things that we were born with, are here to serve a certain purpose in the world, and we have an ability to impact others with those skills. We were not born to impact ourselves, but others. Communication is external. We have words not for us to hear ourselves, but for us to share them with others, and body language for others to see it. We don't see ourselves unless we look in the mirror, so we always communicate with others. So it's to figure out what are those things that we were meant to bring out in this world. So I'm curious, what would be your approach and how meditation could help us learn more about ourselves and go into a deeper discovery? Because as we have different layers, and we have the layer of stress, but if you go deeper, you find calmness and you find your true being, because your true self is not stress. Stress is kind of, it's easier to see it as an outside, as a force that impacts your feeling.
Mm.
So how can we go deeper into our deepest layer of who we are as people and connect with that person and bring it out there to the world, to connect more with a purposeful life and more a self-fulfilled life?
Well, I think again that's it's a question of practicing, and then you won't go to the deepest levels right away, and not every even meditation will feel successful, like, oh, I had this aha moment. No, but little by little you start to uncover little pockets of maybe suppressed feelings or things that happened a long time ago, stories, and then things that you might have judged yourself for, you don't want to accept about yourself. All of that like has been suppressed. And as they say, if you can't feel it, you can't heal it, right? So first, it's about that kind of inner cleanse where you allow things to rise to the surface and let go of it, and just from a perspective of non-judgment. And then you can start excavating the jewels, all the pearls of wisdom that you have, and all the things that you want to share with the world. But it's like it is really a journey, right? It's like one thing after the other. And this practice called Yoga Nidra, which very few people are familiar with, means yogic sleep. And what it actually is a yoga that you practice, or a meditation that you practice lying down. It's actually not really physical yoga. You lie down and relax, and then the guide will take you on a journey that takes you down into all the layers of consciousness. It's your subconscious, and that's where really things will rise to the surface. And you could have like epiphanies, or really like ideas or realizations about yourself that come up, and not only while you're doing it, but afterwards, because you're able to get so relaxed that you can look much more objectively at yourself.
People might hear raising those things onto the surface, and maybe some people would fear of or be stressed to go through a process that would raise maybe problems or things they weren't aware of, or different stressors in their lives. What do you think would be a good way to help the people that maybe they know they want to do it, but they stress because they don't know what they will discover and what will rise?
Yeah, and sometimes you might have a suspicion about what you might discover, and you don't want to go there, right? We live in denial when there's things that we don't like. But I mean, this is where the courage comes in, because when like in Dante's Inferno, when you get to the bottom where he thought it was going to be hell, that on the back of the monster, he came out on the other side floating, right, in a like heaven-like space. And most of our fears, when we able to face them like with ourselves, then when you get to the other side, it's really a liberation, right? Because nobody's perfect, and we all have stories that we are not so proud of, or things that we wish never happened, and it's about really learning to practice self non-judgment, and then starting to love also the shadow parts of yourself.
I'm
And I don't know if
curious
that
as
answered
we
your question.
yeah. So I'm curious about as we speak about our discovering more things about ourselves. I'm curious about the word you mentioned before, the word perfection.
Mm.
And I'm curious if perfection exists in your, what do you think about perfection? Does it exist? Is it not? Or is there any way to reach a level of perfection in meditation? What would be your approach on that and perspective about it?
Well, a few things. I think you can only achieve perfection maybe in a still photo or a still life painting, right? Nature for me is perfection, and it's perfectly imperfect. And because what is it? And life is the same. Life is a movie. It's not a photograph. It's something that's always moving, always changing, always growing. So that's the fascinating thing about meditation, which is really a metaphor for your life. It's really a journey that never ends, and when you're done, you're not in your physical body anymore. And even then, I don't think you're done.
I love it. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's sunny. That's the way the world works.
Yeah,
So that's the perfection.
and if we couldn't feel so-called negative feelings, or those feelings, then we wouldn't be able to feel the opposite either, because you need the contrast to experience life, right? To all of the emotions. And they say also that tiny crack in your heart, like when you've experienced something difficult, or a tiny crack can fill a room with light. I always love that quote.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
Is there any quote that inspired you, or something, or maybe a person in your life that told you something that inspired you to become a better version of yourself, to go into a self-discovery journey?
Um, I had so many like mentors along the way, but one really special person for me was my I kind of called him my father spirit. He was a very well-known massage therapist in Miami and a landscaper. So he took care of nature and bodies. And he passed away in 2021. That was very, very painful for me. But he was incredible, like just the deepest spiritual person that I've ever met, and so kind and so compassionate. And I think he was always very interested in what I was doing and encouraged me to keep going when I was going through really difficult times. And I definitely feel like some part of me is doing it not for him, but inspired by him.
Do you remember something maybe that he told you, or something that really shifted your mind or added to your perspective?
I can't really think of one particular thing right now, but when I would tell him things that I thought maybe he would be shocked, or he would like judge me, like maybe the kind of things you would experience in a family or with people that you don't always know if you can completely be yourself. Uh, with him, it's like I could tell him anything and he would just chuckle, and he'd be like, oh, and he would tell me another similar story about that, or always have like a different perspective. And I think when we tend to spend too much time alone, or we're feeling depressed or anxious, or going through something difficult, if we're only talking to ourselves all the time, like actually staying in our thoughts, then it's hard to shift out of that perspective. So one way is meditation, but it also helps to have a supportive community, or some friend like that who can help you see things from another angle. And speaking of that, that's someone did tell me, it wasn't him, but someone else did tell me once, like treat yourself like you're your own best friend. And that really made an impression on me, because I realized a lot of times in my life I was really not treating myself like my best friend at all. I would never say the things to my best friend that I told myself.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a great idea to think about. Great sentence to tell ourselves also, the way we
Yeah.
treat ourselves. Let's think for a moment about a person that maybe started doing meditation, started maybe a new process in their life, started to do something. They are starting a new thing in their life and they have stress, they have an anxiety, they have fears, they have so many things that might prevent them to see clearly their path. What would be your tip for them that would help them clear their perspective, maybe even before they try meditation, something that could shift their perspective just to see life clearly, more focused, to overcome those stress and anxiety and those things?
Right. Like if you're in such a state that you can't feel like you can't sit down and start meditating.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like getting into the body just to get out of your head is really helpful. And doing, even if you're not able to exercise, like if you have some disability or it's not easy for you to move, just get out in nature, put your bare feet on the ground, notice what you see, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste, get into your senses. And then immediately it shifts you out of your mind. And it really helps put your bare feet on the ground. Cold water is also great. I'm a big fan of swimming in cold water. That's not easy everywhere, but anything you can do to like just take care of your body, even for a few minutes a day, it kind of helps to shake you out of, sitting still and thinking. The monkey
It's
mind,
like
as they say in yoga.
thinking outside of our inner perspective,
Yeah,
our
because
current
you can
perspective.
get stuck, right? You can get stuck.
Yeah,
So then you have to like moving your body helps to shift the energy.
yeah, I love it. You shared something that I want our listeners to pay attention to. You shared earlier that with your mentor, you were able to share things that maybe were more feeling back then closed or shy to share them back then. And it's interesting to think about it because as people, we have so many things that maybe we feel shamed of or shy or
Mm.
that we don't want to share. And we don't want to show our human side.
Mm.
And it's funny how we all have the same experience as people, and we forget that sometimes that we forget that we can be humans, and it's fine.
Mm.
And part of humanity is to discover those things and allow ourselves, if something that we're not happy with, we can change and we can create and we can become better. And I think your story is such an amazing proof for that, how you can always develop and also helping others develop and become the better version of themselves. You do so many interesting things in your life, and your journey is not about you. Of course, I'm sure you enjoy it, but it's about helping others discover themselves. So it's fascinating to hear your insights and philosophy and your ideas about it.
Thank you.
So I want to close our episode today with maybe an idea that you think people should remember from our conversation or in general to take with their life. So when they finish the episode, they can remember, they can learn from all of the things that we shared here, but remember that thing that would help them always become the better version of themselves.
Well, I think it's like you're never done, and it's not like you have a checklist where you can just check it all off and like I'm done. I think forgive yourself and don't judge yourself because every day is a new day, and you just keep on going. And also, I wanted to say that now everything about meditation sounded very serious and like you would only do it if you have to overcome all your shadows. And it's also a very interesting and fun process. So I look at it now as with a lot of curiosity, and it's led me to discover many other things and also take people on retreats to discover new lands and meet new people. And there's a really a fun aspect to it. And maybe that's the thing I would like people to remember is like, don't forget to have fun, because having fun in whatever situation you're in, like doing something that gives you joy will raise your vibration instantly.
That's amazing. I love it. And I think sometimes as people, we forget to have fun.
Oh yeah,
And it's very important to remember.
yeah.
So, Ragnhild, I want to thank you for sharing such a fascinating insights with us and interesting stories and inspiration. Maybe you can share with us how our listeners can find you and learn about what you do, and maybe come to your retreats and your events.
Sure. So I have a website. It's www.thenewviking.io. IO stands for Indian Ocean. And I'm also on Instagram at the New Viking. Not super active on Instagram yet, but it's a journey also. But on the website, you'll find everything that's going on, and you can sign up for my newsletter so you'll know when retreats are coming up. And we have an online journey starting this Sunday called From Chaos to Calm to help people stay calm through these crazy times.
It is. That's amazing. So I want to thank you so much for inspiring us and sharing and spreading so much light from your world into our listeners, and even more than that.
Thank you so much, Yuval. Thank you.